Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is my turn to talk. Okay, so let's get started. Hello, Allison May. Welcome. All right, so today's show is liking each other versus understanding each other. And do we put too much emphasis on liking each other instead of understanding each other? And for me personally, I do believe there is a difference. Would you prefer to be liked or understood if you had a choice? Um, I'm sure most people would like both, but me personally, I would like to be understood more so than like. Um, we go through life where we, meet different people. We have, we go to school, we, form friendships, um, from elementary school to high school. And, you have people that you like, and you have people that you don't like. I mean, that just happens in life. You go to work and the same thing happens. But do people mix up being liked versus being understood? I think when you understand someone, you get them. You understand where they're coming from, as opposed to liking someone. You can like them. I like your personality. I think you're a great person. I have fun. When we're together. So um, yeah, I think that there is a difference between liking and being understood. And Alice, since you are the first one in, I'm going to give you the mic if you like it, and tell me if you agree with me or if you don't agree with me. What are your thoughts? Hello, Juju. Welcome. And we are talking about being liked versus understood. Okay, so Alice, I am going to give you the mic if you like it. If not, I will keep going.
Hey,
Hey, Alice.
so we discussed this, and I don't agree with you about much, but I do like you. So we went over that. So I do like different points of view, and when it comes to let's see, this is an interesting topic because I could have faith and trust in someone, or not to get so deep, or just care about them, but don't agree on much. My husband, for example, crazy takes on things, but I mean, I believe in what he says and we discuss them. That's what we do, right? That's all I have to say.
Okay. All right. So, and just so you know, Alice, when people stop speaking, I automatically mute them. If you want to come back on, that's not a problem. Okay. So, understanding, where Alice is coming from, I have friends that, hello, Crucible Man, I have friends that I do not agree, with them on anything. They do not agree with me on anything, but we are friends, so that's why I say, a level of understanding, you don't have to agree, but understand. And I think there's a difference between now, agreeing with someone and understanding someone. um I mean, there are some people that I just don't get. I know someone who we're friendly. um I wouldn't necessarily classify us as friends. I don't think she would classify me as a friend. You know, we're just friendly towards each other. But I don't get her. You know, uh, but but she's a nice person. So now I ask, is there a difference between understanding each other and agreeing with someone? So let's put the like part out of it. Can you understand someone without agreeing with them, or vice versa? Anybody want to take that one? Alice, would you like to take that one?
I'm still thinking about the question you posed right now.
All right,
You're
not
always
a
on a
problem.
very thin, fine line, right?
Well, I like to put the questions out there. You know, you can agree or disagree. I just like to throw it out there. Hello, OJ. So Alice, I will come back to you. So Crucible Man, would you like to answer that one? Uh, and OJ, we are talking about liking versus understanding each other. Okay, Crucible Man has something he wants to say. So, what are your thoughts?
So I'm sorry, you said we're taking like out of it for the time being, and
I'm taking light out of it for the time being and just saying, is there a difference between understanding someone and agreeing with someone? Can you agree with someone without necessarily understanding them? Can you understand with someone without necessarily agreeing with someone?
well, I think you have to understand where they're coming from before you can agree or disagree. So I do think understanding is important, but there's a writer that I've followed for many, many, many years who's very smart and really has a lot of wisdom. And he has a famous saying, I don't know how famous it is actually, but it's famous to me. And he always says in situations like we're discussing, no matter what the relationship is, it could be spouses, could be siblings, it could be just friends, clarity is more important than agreement. So it kind of goes to your point that you just said about you have a person that you are friendly with, but maybe not friends with, and you don't get her, but she may not get you either. So you are clear on where you each stand. So I would say you understand each other, but you certainly don't agree. So I guess his point in all that is it's better to know where each person stands on something than bend over backwards to reach some faux agreement so everybody feels better.
Okay, so let me throw the like part at you. Do you think it's necessary to like someone and understand them? And my part two to that is when I was first starting is, would you rather be liked or would you rather be understood? And I'm making that either or. I'm purposely making that either or.
Well, I guess a broader question might be, is it possible to like somebody that you don't understand? Um, I guess you could on a superficial level, but to be truly friends with somebody in that sense of liking them, if you don't understand them, I would think one would somewhat preclude the other. Um, but to your other question, I would prefer to be understood than agreed with. I think it's important that that's where the honesty part comes in, and I think a lot of people do revert to the go along to get along philosophy, and there's certainly times where that's important. You have to do that in life. You can't be butting heads all the time. It's exhausting. So I would prefer to be clear, and I wasn't always that way. I was very much a go along to get along person. I didn't like the conflict. I didn't like the fallout from the disagreements, and I've had many. I'm on the conservative side of the aisle, and I've had many friends, many girlfriends who were not on the conservative side of the aisle, and we would frequently butt heads, and it finally got to the point where we realized nobody is changing any hearts and minds, and we decided to agree to disagree, and things were a lot more harmonious after that.
All right. Does anyone want to comment on what Crucible Man just said? You know, again, I'm taking the friendship part of out of it. I'm saying liking versus understanding. And would you rather be liked or understood? Not you don't have to be friends with the person, but would you rather, liked or understood? Is there a difference between liking and understanding? And Alice says that relationships are complicated. Relationships are complicated. They're complicated on a level. If you're you know liking someone in terms of a lover or something like that, or just dealing with a friend, or dealing with your children. Sometimes it is complicated, but I think that for me personally, again, I say there's a level of understanding. You have to understand where the person's coming from, because that way you're also giving them a level of respect, and that can take this conversation a whole different way when you throw in the respect word. So, does anybody want to comment? Alice, have you gathered your thoughts? I'll give you the mic again. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
You know what? I have to go for a second. I'll be listening.
All right,
But
not a problem. Okay,
gotta go get.
not a problem.
I'm listening. All right.
Okay. All right. So, does anyone else want to, throw their hat into the ring and say anything else? Crucible Man, do you want to comment on what I just said?
Yes, I think on some fundamental level, we all, as human beings, we want to be liked. We all have insecurities. We all have things that we feel about ourselves that we aren't comfortable with. So we all have that desire to be liked and even loved. I think where the slope gets slippery is if your need to be liked is so much stronger than your need to be understood that you compromise your principles or you compromise your position for the sake of being liked. I think that's when you start to get into some difficult territory. So I guess it depends on the relationship too. Like you said, you have a friend who's not really a friend, but you're friendly with them. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the relationship, how far you're willing to compromise before you start to feel uncomfortable about the fact that you didn't stick to your principles and you preferred to go along to get along.
Okay, well, I will say, in terms of going along to get along, I have done that and I still do that. I don't like to, argue with people, and I will either do one of two things. I will either just not say anything, and you can say, well, what do you think? And I'll say, oh, I don't have an opinion, or I'll just say, okay, all right, yeah, whatever, yeah, sure, whatever, because, I just, it's just not worth, for me, it's just not worth arguing or anything like that. But the person I'm talking about, I've known her since I met her when my son was in kindergarten, and she was just someone, and she probably doesn't get me either, but she was just always someone that I would just kind of tilt my head to, because I'm like, I just don't get her, but OJ, you had something you wanted to say. What do you want to say? You have the mic.
Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, you are on.
Okay, thank you. See, this point of yours, understanding and to like or to understand, this is if this is on a superficial this level, we kind of likes people on the road. For example, if someone smiles at me, I smile back, and I say I might take a step forward and say and compliment him or her, and then we just walk away. But to understand somebody, that thing it goes deeper. So once it gets deeper, that's the time you have to understand to like or to dislike the person. That's what I feel like we have to understand somebody to know his or her likes or dislikes, and then and then take it forward.
Okay. All right. I understand that. Does anyone want to comment on what OJ just said? Hello, feisty one. I'm glad you're able to make it today. All right. So let me go back to the liking part. Um, a couple of you said that you preferred, well, most of you said understood. Is there anyone who, feisty one, you just came in, would you rather be liked, or would you rather be understood? Does it matter to you? Hey, Deborah, does it matter to you if you are liked or if you're understood? And the same question would go to Deborah. Um, I can honestly say that there are people that I like that I don't necessarily understand them, but again, I like them. They're nice. They make me laugh. They're good people. Yeah. Crucible Man, you want to say something?
Well, when you think about disparate groups of people in the world, and you can certainly start with men and women. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just people joking, but for the longest time, men and women have claimed not to understand one another, and probably for good reason. They're very, very different species. And then you take, let's just say, maybe one of the more obvious ones, blacks and whites. They don't spend nearly as much time together as men and women spend together. So I think men and women eventually come to understand the other side. They may not completely know where they're coming from all the time, but they know what their feelings are on certain things. They know how they behave, whether they're emotional or not for a woman, whether they're too stubborn or too aggressive for a man. And you kind of know where the lines are drawn. But that's because they spend so much time around each other. And let's face it, for even just basic reasons of procreation, you're going to need to get along with, men and women are going to need to get along just to, further the population. But when it comes to,
Not necessarily, but go ahead.
well, that's maybe the topic for another day. But when it comes to blacks and whites, I don't know if it's really reasonable. And this is where I think the crux of the question comes in for me. Is it possible to understand a group of people or a person whose culture is foreign to you, or you only are familiar with it from, let's say, 100 miles away, and you don't spend any meaningful time together? Is it realistic for blacks and whites to ever truly understand each other's cultures, because we grow up so differently in such different environments and have such different experiences, without stating the obvious? Is it unreasonable for us, or what, maybe a better way of asking it, what is a more reasonable expectation or a more reasonable outcome when it comes to disparate groups who, not necessarily by design, but through circumstance, don't spend any time around each other, so that gap is never going to get closed? And are we okay with that? Or are we going to continue to insist there's got to be some middle ground? There's got to be some understanding here somewhere.
All right, so you just took this conversation in a completely different direction, which is fine. That's what my show does. This is what conversations do, and I will let other people respond. This is my comment on that when it comes to the races. I first would like to respond to something that OJ said, was when he says that he sees people on the street and he, you nod at them, you say hello. I'm one of those people too. But when it comes to the races, understanding each other, I think, and I may be biased because I am African American, I think that African Americans are more, or put like this, I think people of color are more willing to open up that understanding door than white people are. And again, I know I'm taking this conversation now going into a completely a different topic. And I say that because I have white friends. I, I live in a majority white area. I am around white people all the time. I've gone to school with white people ever since I was in kindergarten. And we're always the one who have to adapt to them, meaning, we're around them more so than they're around us. And I was having a conversation with someone the other day where, where she said that we're always having, to work harder, to show them. And it's like, well, why can't they show us? um in terms of forgiveness, one thing that just bugs me so much is when something happens to African Americans, the first thing that they want to do is say, I forgive you. You don't hear too many white people saying that, and it's almost as if, we're expected to forgive. Um, Things happen to us in our neighborhoods, in our lives, that just don't happen to white people. It just doesn't. you know um uh and Juju says people of color always initiate a conversation. I can agree with that partially, but it seems like that we're always the ones who are trying to make you feel comfortable. Why don't you make me feel, comfortable? I had a conversation with someone, once where I said that, we were talking about, walking down the street, and if you saw a group of black people as opposed to a group of white people, I said, when I see a group of white people, I get nervous. I do. Because I know what can happen. I've seen what can happen. I've seen what has happened, to my dad on countless times. For me, I walk across the street, and in today's environment, with all these different groups popping up, these hate groups or whatever, you don't know who's gonna tall off and hit you, or call you a name, or whatever. So in terms of understanding, I think we reach out and understand more than the other side. That's just my opinion. Anybody want to comment, agree, jump in? Whatever. I'm sure Crucible Man probably has something to say. Feisty One, I don't know if you want to say something. OJ, I mean, the mic is open to whoever wants to, or whomever wants to comment, disagree, agree with me. I think we're going back to stereotypes. Yeah, we are. This is, we are. So, does anybody want to comment? Anybody? Anybody? Deborah, would you like to comment? Okay. Deborah, let's see. I sent you an invite if you want to come on. And Crucible Man, I'm going to give you the mic.
Imagine this might just be my imagination, but it seems to me that when we talk about not understanding other cultures, and I guess we'll stick to the race thing for now. It comes from a collective misunderstanding born of maybe distrust, or maybe it's the other way around: distrust born of misunderstanding. Um, and I don't know. It seems to me that on an individual basis, that when blacks and whites are actually friends and they spend time around each other, the understanding level improves. And so you've got people who get along very well with blacks, get along very well with other whites on an individual personal basis, and whites with blacks on an individual personal basis. But in the collective, when we take each other's aggregate races and include the whole group, there seems to be more animosity and distrust and misunderstanding in the collective than there is on the personal or the individual level. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but that's just my gut feeling and my experience in life.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I disagree with you, because I think that you can spend a lot of time with the someone of a different race and not understand them. And I say that just from comments that I hear from white people, and not just white people. I mean, spending time with with Latinos and Asians, whatever. Just comments, that you've been around these people, for a lengthy period of time, and the comments that they make is something that Shy Lady, says is it's ignorance, and I don't mean ignorant where you're stupid. I'm talking about just an ignorance that you just don't get it, and I don't think that um, I don't think that you ever will, because you can't fully understand something that doesn't happen to you. And that's why I always say to people, if it doesn't happen to you, you tend to brush it off, push it off to the side. Well, if you would just do this, or if they would just do this, whatever. And it's like, you do this, you follow the rules, whatever, and it still happens to you. And it's happening for one particular reason. And, to say that it's not, or, if it doesn't happen to you, then you know so Deborah, I see that you are on. Are you able to talk? I see that you are trying to. Okay, Feisty One, did you have something you wanted to say? Because you are also clicking over here to me. Did you have something you wanted to say, Feisty One? If not, I will mute you again. No? All right. All right, so while Deborah's still trying to figure out how to get on, there should be a little microphone that you can click, and you should be able to talk. All right, Crucible Man, did you want to make a comment on what I just said?
Yeah, you make a good point. It isn't just blacks and whites. It is Asians. It is Hispanics. It is Muslims, and I don't claim to have an intimate understanding of any of those groups, because I don't hang out with them. I don't know any of them, but I don't dislike any of them. I don't think it's fair to dislike people. Now you can dislike individual behavior. That's a little easier, but I'm never comfortable lumping everybody into one bucket and saying, those Asian people, I don't understand why they do, I don't know, fill in the blank. I can't even think of anything, but something that as you observe one culture over time, you accumulate these things in your head that kind of make you scratch your head a little bit, because you're never going to be as intimately familiar with that culture as you are with your own. So I don't think it's simply a black and white thing. I think it's really easy for us as human beings to revert to our camps, into our tribes, and forgive or overlook a lot of the transgressions and a lot of the things that take place within our own cultures, and ascribe negative things to other cultures, because it's too difficult for us to admit we're not perfect either.
Okay, so I think that's where the level of understanding comes in. You don't have to like me, but I ask that you understand me, or at least try to understand me, because when you have one person, and let's take race out of it for a moment. If you have two people who are in a relationship, and if you get married, or or even if you don't get married, you're in this relationship, and if one person doesn't understand the other person, that relationship's not going to last. And if it does, in my opinion, is superficial. Uh, this is where we talk about that. The agree word. You don't have to agree with me, but you have to, please understand me. You don't have to like me, but can you understand me? And that's why, for me personally, I would prefer to be understood than liked. I've known people for years, years, and I can honestly say that for the type of person that I am, I can probably count on one hand how many of those people actually get me. You know, um, Because I don't think everyone in everyone's life necessarily get you and understand where you're coming from. They may have a level of understanding, but do they actually get you? And I think there's a difference. Anybody want to comment? Disagree? Let's see. Juju says some people that I find myself having a conversation with totally block me out when I'm speaking to them. Okay, all right. And I've had that happen to me. I've been, talking, and I've had that happen to me. And then, but on the other hand, I have blocked out people that have had conversations with me where I'm like, this is getting me nowhere. So mentally, I do block them out. But do you mean where they just rudely just block you out and start talking about something else? Is that what you mean, Juju, or they totally ignore you? So ignore me. Okay. Well, no one likes to be ignored. You know, I'm, for the most part, and again, this is me, I'm the type of person that if I don't want to talk to you, if I don't want to be bothered with you, I won't even attempt to even have the conversation with you. You can come up to me and say, hey, how are you, whatever, and I'll say hi. I'll be polite, unless I really don't like you, but I will be polite. But then, I'll kind of wander away, or I'll, go over to another group, or, find something else to do, because I'm not going to have a conversation with someone that, that I, just don't like. So, again, does anyone have anything that they want to say? Crucible Man, OJ, does anyone have anything that they'd like to say?
Hello?
You are on.
Yeah, I think sometimes what gets lost in the shuffle as we are focused on race or religion or ethnicity or what have you, a lot of what it boils down to is something really as simple as values. We tend to like people and understand people who share our values. And you can be of any color or any creed or any ethnicity and get along with that other group, even though you may be culturally disparate, and on opposite sides of an issue. But if you share values, that's why you see, blacks and whites sometimes in church together, because their bond is through their creed and through their religion, and it supersedes skin color or ethnicity or things like that. So I think we tend to gravitate towards people who share our values as opposed to maybe some of the more superficial characteristics.
Well, I mean, you can gravitate towards people who share your values, but that doesn't mean that um, you should not understand the people that you should not understand the people that you don't share values with. I mean, and when you say values, now with the situation, that it's, see, Juju says you hit the nail on the head. I mean, because now we're in a situation where we have a group of people who may not, want, they want the world, they want America a certain way, um, and I'm just going to say it. When you use the term, let's, and I'm going political now, let's, make America great again. Okay, first of all, people have said, when was America never great? And when you look back and say, let's make America great, for who? For who? Because if you look back in history, when America was supposedly great, it was mainly for one group of people. The other groups, were terrorized and left out, and so many things have happened to them. So when you say things like that, and and sharing values, um, what values are you talking about? Um, and again, there's that understanding. Does that mean that you still have to understand the people that you may not share their values? I mean, there are groups of people that I don't share their values with, but I would try to make an effort to understand them. I mean, with different cultures, I may not, share the same values as an Asian, or someone from India, or a Native American, or a white person, or whatever. But that doesn't mean that I can't understand them. And I think that that's one of the problems that we have now as a society, that we're not understanding people first. you know um maybe we should try to understand people before we um uh look at common ground. Okay, Crucible Man says, what is an example of values you may not share? Okay, I may not necessarily share that it's so okay to walk around uh, um, walk around the community, you know, with a gun. That may be a value that you want. I may not share the value that a certain group of people should go to school together, and we should separate kids or whatever. I may not share that value. um uh look at the value, separate but equal. In school, I'll use school as a perfect example. You had a group of people who wanted to keep children separate because of race. Separate but equal. We can be separate, but we can be equal. Those are values that people have. I don't share that. Those are, I don't share those values. But that doesn't mean that I can't understand you. That doesn't mean that I still can't sit down and have a conversation with you and still try to understand you. So when you look at, I don't know, to me, it just seems like that when you start talking about sharing values, that's making people get into a clique. Or if we all gravitate to people who share values, then people are getting into their cliques. You're going to have the value people A over here, the value people B over here, the value people C over here, and we're still separated. And it breeds people being divisive. But again, that's just me. Anybody want to agree, disagree? Tell me I'm talking out of my behind. I mean, what? Okay, OJ says he agrees. Okay, agree. Okay, OJ, did you want the mic? Did you want to say something? You have the mic. Hello. Okay, I thought you wanted the mic. All right, I will go to Crucible Man. Did you have a reply? I know you do.
It's pride. Yeah, I guess when I was referring to values, and the values you brought up are good issues. I don't know if I would necessarily define them as quote unquote values, but when I was saying values, I meant the proper way to behave, how to treat other people, showing respect, having integrity, having a good moral compass. I mean, things that are really sort of at a fundamental level as us with people. If you want to get into things like, okay, I think I should be able to carry a gun, and you don't think I should be able to carry a gun. Okay, I don't know if that's a value per se.
Okay.
That's a position on an issue. So I was referring to, do we agree that there's an acceptable way to go through life as far as treating other people and how you conduct yourself? And is there an unacceptable way to go through life? And are we on the same page with regard to some really basic, fundamental, characteristics?
Okay, I'm going to answer that. You brought up some good points about how to treat people and what have you. So let's compare. And I'm sorry, I have to bring race back in because to me this is just glaring to me. Um, let's look at last summer, the summer of unrest, and you had Black Lives Matter, and yes, there were some Black Lives Matter people who started fires, broke windows, what have you. And you can say, well, do you want to associate yourselves with that particular group of people? I'm not talking about Black Lives Matter as a whole. I'm talking about just the people who, went off course and they did whatever. No, I don't. But then you look at January 6th, where you have a group of people who were a massive group of people, thousands of people, who were, breaking into a federal building, beating, officers with a flagpole. But these are the same people who say, Blue Lives Matter. We care about the values. Blue Lives Matter. Whatever. These are the same people who, during the summer of 2020, were waving a Blue Lives Matter flag, and we shouldn't do this and we should do that, and how dare they? But then these same people of that I'm going to say, these same people of value go and do this on January 6th. So do I want to associate with group A or do I want to associate with group B? I don't want to associate with either one of them. So it's like people's values and what people consider in integrity and respect and what have you. What is your version of integrity and respect? Because if you talk to people who participate on January 6th, they don't think anything's wrong. But at the same point, you can say some of the people who participated in what was going on last summer, who were breaking windows and setting fires, they may not think that it was wrong. But both of them were violent. Both of them may think that they were doing it to make a point, that their integrity was at stake or whatever, the country was at stake, whatever. So, I mean, then you have to go to what is considered a value. I mean, see, LJ says going on rampage is not right. No, it isn't. I mean, there's a for something like that, there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. Violence is a total no. You're right. It is. It's a total no across the board, no matter who you are. So does anybody want to respond to that? I'm sure Crucible Man has something he wants to say. I will give you the mic again.
Well, this may or may not be applicable, but I have a personal example. I met a guy about 6 years ago, maybe 5.5 years ago, at a real estate meeting, and we didn't know each other at all. He was an African American guy, half my age, so it was really more of an age thing for me than it was a skin color thing. The skin color thing, to me, I never even blinked about that, but I thought I might be considered less relevant in his eyes because I was literally twice his age. But as we talked, and we started talking about our different philosophies about business, about life, how to conduct yourself, how to do things the right way, we realized we had an awful lot in common. And he needed someone to work with. I needed someone to work with. And we worked together for a good 4.5 years with a good deal of success because we didn't care about the age difference. We didn't care about the skin color difference. We cared about, are we on the same page with regard to how we approach our lives and how we approach our business? And it turns out we were, and we had a fairly successful partnership for almost 5 years.
And that's good. I mean, and that's how it should be. Does anyone else have a comment on what Crucible Man says or anything else, or taking the conversation in an entirely different direction? But for Crucible Man, I would say there's still that level of understanding, and you found a common ground. So let's see. I'm just going through. Did I miss anybody's comment? Okay, no. So again,
Yeah. So
okay,
let's do.
OJ.
Yeah. I sorry, I wrote the yes. Anyways, see, I for me, we generally tend to call. Sorry, I'm taking names with no offense meant as such. Generally we tend to stereotype Muslims with with terrorism and fundamentalists, right? So that's again a generalized thing, statement which I'm making. But if we go to see, not all, not all of them are terrorists. Not all of them are fundamentalists. Just because they pray 5 times a day, and whenever the call of prayer is made, those guys they leave everything, everything, and they head for and they go up to the mosque and pray. That is their culture, and that is what they do. So we cannot call them fundamentalists. In other words, like for us, we as Christians, we go to church on Sundays. Well, that is us, and we need to do it, and we practice our rights. So in that way, like we just cannot discriminate anybody.
No, and I totally understand that. So does anyone want to comment on what OJ just said? Or does anyone want to make another comment? Shy Lady, you just came in. I know you know the topic, liking each other versus understanding each other. Do we put too much emphasis on liking each other instead of understanding each other? And would you prefer to be liked or understood? So if you want to jump in on the conversation, you're more than welcome. And yes, she does. Between Shy Lady and Crucible Man, you guys always have something to say. Hey, Shy Lady, what's up?
Hey, I'd rather be understood than liked. Because if you understand me, at least you possibly may respect me. You can pretend to like me and not respect me or care about what I think. So I'd rather be understood. If you understand me, maybe we'll have a civil conversation.
Okay. All right. So do you think that if you're understood, that people would get you more?
I think so, and vice
Okay.
versa.
Okay. Yeah, before you came on, I was saying that, that I can probably count on one hand, people in my life who not understand me. I know people understand me. Well, maybe not all the time, but I know that people understand me, but people who get me. And for those of you who don't know, Shiley and I have been friends for over 30 years. And she is one person, and I can only speak for how I feel about our friendship. She gets me, so um, um, I truly believe that being understood is, for me, better than being liked. But you have those people who they don't care if you understand them. They don't care if you get them. They just really have a need to be liked. And for those people, I think it's more of an emotional thing, maybe. But I don't know. Charlotte, did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, that was
Okay. All right. Well, this has been an interesting conversation. This conversations always go, in different directions. But just as a whole, I just believe that in society as a whole, and I'm not talking about individual friendships or anything or relationships, society as a whole, I think that understanding is just so vitally important, especially because of where we are now, that we have to understand each other. You don't have to get me, you don't have to like me, but you should be able to understand me. And I think that if we were at that level, which in my opinion, just as a country we aren't, and as a world, I know we absolutely aren't. You know, we just need to understand each other in order, to move forward. Because once again, I just think that God has his finger on the destruct button, where he's just going to say, you guys, I'm just ready to just blow it all up because you all don't like each other, you don't understand each other, you're ruining this world that I gave you, and it's time for me to start over. So I don't know. Anyone want to agree, disagree, or okay, feisty one? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think you're right. We'd be in a much better place if we took the time to understand each other. But the problem with that is if you judge me because of the color of my skin, we'll never get to the point of you trying to understand me. And you got to find a way to take that out of the mix. And it doesn't matter what color your skin is. The problem is people size you up based on how you look, so many different things, not just color. Are you fat? Are you skinny? Are you tall? Are you short? Are you loud? Are you soft spoken? People judge you and size you up in a moment. And so if you can't get past that, how do you ever get to the point of understanding who I am and what I'm about and what I stand for? And so
So do you think it's possible that we'll ever get to that point where we take that part out, where we're not judging people as soon as we see them? Because that's kind of hard.
it is incredibly difficult. I don't know the answer to that. I think, it's tough to take that out of the mix. But I think if you can just give it a little bit of time and be open to discussion and conversation beyond that initial contact, we might be able to get there.
Okay, now Crucible Man says people are afraid to be honest with each other. Do you agree or disagree with that?
In some instances, I believe that's true. People are afraid to be honest. But I think you have to define what honesty is, right? Like, I think rather than honesty, it's about perception, whether, it's a person's perception of what is being honest. But yeah, I think there's some validity to that statement.
Okay. All right. Does anyone want to agree or disagree with what Feisty One says? Thank you, Feisty One, for your input. Crucible Man, did you want to?
Yes. Well, one thing that you did mention that I have kind of done a metamorphosis on over the years is when you say, we all live different lives, and what white people experience each day and black people experience each day can be very, very different. And for the longest time, I resisted buying into that notion until over the course of many, many, many years, listening to African Americans be interviewed, talk about their life experience. There were so many common threads running through their collective and individual experiences that I finally came to the understanding that there is a lot of validity to what they say. Whether I chose to buy into it or accept it, is a different story. It took a while. But I think I'm at a place where, after hearing and seeing so many stories from so many people over so many decades, yes, I believe I have a better understanding of what different groups go through than I used to. Do I have a complete and thorough understanding? Of course not, and I probably never will. But I have a much better willingness to buy into what they're saying because I think there's just so much truth to it.
Okay, so now I have to ask you, Crucible Man. I'm going to put you on the spot. If you don't want to be on the spot, just say it's none of your business, or you don't want to answer. Why were you resisting? I mean, did you think that people of color were not telling the truth, or what? Because I go back to what Will Smith said. It's not that things are getting better; it's being filmed. So, what made you? I mean, why were you resisting?
Well, for a lot of them, I thought it was maybe an excuse. They were excusing their behavior and ascribing treatment to skin color when in fact it may have been behavior. And I just thought it became a bit of a crutch to be constantly saying I've been discriminated against or somebody showed me bias. It was just an easier way to not have to change your behavior, yet still call into question individual treatments. But I decided over the course of literally decades that African Americans have been treated differently and have been treated very, very harshly. Is some of it brought on by behavior? Certainly. Is a lot of it brought on by skin color? Absolutely. So it's just a general evolution of being old, I think.
Okay, does anyone want to respond to what Crucible Man said?
I want to say that I'm glad to hear that he allowed his mind to be more opened. I don't know if it was just because of he said it took decades, so he opened his mind. A lot of people are still closed minds, so I'm glad to hear that he allowed his mind to be open, because looking at a person who doesn't look like you, and if you being the one who is the majority, it is difficult to see the perspective of an African American. It is difficult, and I think that with the recent videos, those things have given people more insight as to what goes on in our lives as African Americans. And I think we had a show about the talk a few months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and many people might think, after some people hearing about it, they may wondering like, wow, you have to go through that. And it's yes, it's not fabricated or um, an excuse or a crutch. Is something that happens a lot in our community. And so those of us who have young men who are our offsprings, that's a concern for us that are African Americans.
And you bring up another point. I mean, yeah, I mean, again, you know, if you don't walk in someone's shoes, then you don't know exactly what is going on with them, and not even talking about race, just talking about life in general. You know, someone may be homeless. 20 years ago, homeless people were called bums. When I was a paralegal, when I was working as a paralegal, and I did a lot of bankruptcy, you know, I had people who always says, "Oh, people who file bankruptcy, they're just running up their credit cards." No, a lot of it was, medical. People had, if they did run up their credit cards, they were paying medical bills, and people losing their homes and what have you. So we can't just automatically assume that someone is homeless, because of they're irresponsible or something. So you go back to walking in someone else's shoes. You may be having a hard time, but do you have a roof over your head? Do you have electricity? Do you have food? Do you have water? What have you? You have people who don't have that. So um, I don't know. And I guess that word understand comes back in, where we have to understand each other. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. Everyone has something that has happened to them in their life. Everyone has seen something or knows someone. Sometimes it hits home. Sometimes it comes right through your front door. I've told the story before. I'm pretty sure some of you may have heard it when I was on the other platform. I'm 6-7 years old, and my dad would come home as a mail carrier. At that time, they were able to come home for lunch, and our front door was open. You had the screen door, and next thing you know, 5 cops are breaking down our door and holding a gun on my father, saying, calling him the N word. What is he doing here? Why is he in this house? I'm freaking out. My sister's freaking out. My mother comes running out the bedroom. They call her a name. They're calling us names, whatever. I mean, these things happen. And yet this was a neighborhood that was predominantly black. A very good neighborhood, one of the best in the country at the time. So things happen. Things happen to people. I can't, talk about what happens to Latinos, that are specifically to them, because I'm not them. But you try to have a level of understanding. So everyone goes through, ups and downs in their life. Things happen to, one group of people that may not happen to another group of people. One thing may happen to one race that doesn't happen to another. Women are more sexualized, than men. Men are, but women are more so. You have to understand. There's that level of understanding. So on that note, I'm going to ask: does anyone have anything else that they'd like to say or add? And Juju says she's unfreaking unbelievable. Well, yeah, yep, yes, I am serious. I am serious. And I mean, I have lots of stories. But there are things that have happened, over the years, whatever. I mean, I went to a high school that was crossing the line over into another area, from, growing up in Chicago. You did not go over to, the southwest side of Chicago into those suburbs. You just didn't. I went to high school where, uh, you know, when my sister was a junior, the school was literally locked down. The black people were not allowed to leave. They stayed there for 24 hours. They were in that, again, the school was crossing the line over into this other area. You know, they literally surrounded the school, saying that if any black kids came out, they were going to shoot them. You think about this, 20, 30, 40 years later, and you're like, are you fucking kidding me? But this is what happens. And I know everyone else has a story. Not just black people, white people have stories, Asian people have stories, Latino people have stories. But I don't want to feel that I always have to prove something, that in order for you to believe me, it has to be on tape. Can you just take my word for it and not believe a stereotype, or whatever? This is what happens. If Rodney King's beating had not been on tape, people would have believed the 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 police officers, and you all know that that's true. So how far have we come? How far have we haven't come? But it still comes back to understanding. Understanding. You don't have to like me, but can you understand me? So on that note, does anyone have anything that they want to say? Crucible Man, did you want to say something? Your thing is kind of blinking here.
Yeah, I typed it into the chat box. I think, like anything in life, it takes effort. It has to be prioritized. It has to be important to you. Understanding another person, and we all tend to be kind of selfish, and we tend to want to be in our comfort zones, and we tend to be a little lazy and a little complacent. It's like, let the other person come over to my side and show some conciliatory behavior or some kind of a olive branch. It has to be a priority in your life. You have to want to understand another person, because it's just too damn easy to punt on it.
Okay. And I would agree with that. Does anyone want to respond to what Crucible Man says before we wrap it up here? Okay. Well, on that note, I think we had, once again, I think we had a really good conversation, and that's what it is, a conversation. So again, thank you to everyone. Shy Lady, Feisty One, Juju, OJ28, Crucible Man, and Deborah, who was never able to get back, but that's okay. And Alice the Maid, she was here too. So thank you guys very much. And again, I'm Solid Blue Sister. Very interesting conversation and topic. Well, thank you, Crucible Man. Um, uh, I'm Solid Blue Sister. I'm sorry, this is my turn to talk. Always speak your truth. Thank you, Juju. And I will see you guys on Monday. So enjoy your weekend. Have a safe weekend. And I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, OJ, for liking the show. And thank you for your input. Bye, Shy Lady. Goodbye, Crucible Man. Next week, we're going to talk about people over 65 dating, friendship, and one other one that I had. Can't think of it right now. Which one do you love? The friendship one or over 65, Juju? Which one are you loving? Both. Okay. Happy weekend to you, OJ. Well, I will say I'm 59, and I know if I ever got divorced or, for whatever reason I was single, I would not get married again. You guys definitely had a lot to say today. Crucible Man, you always have a lot to say. And Juju, you have a lot to say through your fingers, my silent friend. You know I love you. All right, everyone, we're wrapping it up. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. And I'll see you Monday. Bye.